When most of us picture 1947 and the birth of modern India, it's really easy to just imagine a neat, triumphant finish line, right? The British packed up, the flag went up, and boom, a new nation was instantly born. Well, digging into the sources for today's explainer, it turns out that wasn't exactly the case. 1947 was really just the incredibly complex and honestly often painful beginning of a massive project, a project that is still actively unfolding right now.
So we have to start by asking ourselves a pretty big central question. Is achieving freedom actually the same thing as building a nation? The fascinating thing we uncover in this historical journey is that no, removing an imperial power is an entirely different task than uniting a deeply plural civilization. I mean, winning freedom, that was about getting the British out, but building the nation, that was about figuring out how to bring literally hundreds of millions of diverse people, separated by language, caste, religion, and geography, together into one unified political community. It's a whole different ballgame. To help us wrap our heads around how they tackled this, here's our roadmap for today. We're gonna hit 5 main stops. First, the foundation. Then, the social fabric. Next, identity and belonging. After that, the economic reality. And finally, the daily construction.
All right, let's jump right into chapter 1, the foundation.
Okay, so let's break down this idea of nation building. What does that actually mean? At its core, it's the process of creating a common national identity, a stable political order, and a shared destiny among very diverse people. Now, the Indian Constitution, it brilliantly provided the legal framework for this. It's like the blueprint of a massive house. But a blueprint doesn't automatically build the emotional walls, right? For a nation to actually function, its citizens have to deeply believe they belong together, that the law treats them equally, and that their dignity is secure. So while the legal foundation was beautifully laid out on paper, the emotional and social foundations had to be built completely from the ground up.
And man, that emotional foundation was tested immediately. The transition from late 1947 to 1948 wasn't some peaceful honeymoon period. Independence arrived right alongside the incredibly violent, deeply traumatic reality of partition. We're talking about millions of people displaced, trust was completely shattered. This new state had to manage an immense humanitarian crisis while simultaneously trying to prove to the world that a democratic, multi-religious nation could even survive. By the time the Republic was officially established in 1950, it was essentially born out of grief and the urgent, absolute necessity to defend a pluralistic home.
Which brings us right into our second section, the social fabric. You see, India didn't start its nation-building journey with a clean slate. It inherited some severely damaged structures. Think about the administrative hierarchies left behind by colonial rule, or the education systems that were literally designed to privilege only a tiny elite. Access to state power was heavily skewed. But even deeper than that colonial footprint was the reality of caste. The caste system didn't just magically vanish at the stroke of midnight in 1947. Instead, these deeply entrenched inequalities just walked right into the new democratic era, continuing to dictate daily life, social mobility, and basic human dignity for millions of people. And that leads us to a really stark realization. Think about it. You cannot fully unify a nation if large chunks of your society experience systemic discrimination every single day. Sure, constitutional protections and reservations were introduced to try and correct these historical wrongs, but there's a huge ongoing tension between those legal protections and everyday caste consciousness. As long as someone's social rank determines whether they feel like an equal citizen or a marginalized outsider, the Republic remains, by definition, incomplete. Let's move on to Chapter 3, Identity and Belonging. This is where we run into a really fascinating core paradox. It's the ultimate tightrope walk. On one hand, diversity is absolutely India's greatest civilizational strength. It creates this incredibly rich social world and fosters massive democratic participation. But, on the other hand, it's the hardest political balancing act imaginable. If diversity isn't managed with equality, it becomes a severe strain. Because if one group starts to feel permanently dominant and another feels permanently excluded, the whole nation risks fracturing from the inside. The daily challenge is celebrating difference without letting that difference turn into division. And that delicate balance brings us to communalism. Now, in India, secularism hasn't historically meant erasing religion from public life. Rather, it means equal respect for all communities under one constitution. But, and this is absolutely crucial, when political leaders or institutions use religion primarily as a tool to mobilize voters, it creates serious communal tension. Objectively speaking, this destroys the emotional trust needed for nation building. When religious or regional identities harden into permanent bitter conflict, the nation weakens from within.
Now let's pivot to our fourth section, the economic reality.
Because ideals are great, but material reality is what makes citizens actually buy into a republic. When we look at the economic hurdles, the impacts on nation building are huge. Take concentrated development, for example. If all the growth happens in just a few cities, massive populations are left completely outside the promise of progress. Or uneven regional growth, that just breeds deep resentment and erodes unity. And perhaps the most dangerous is youth unemployment. It takes the incredible energy of a young population and converts it from a national asset into profound, volatile disillusionment. Basically, poverty makes the state feel incredibly distant to the very people it's supposed to serve.
Which leads to this stark, unforgettable takeaway from our sources. Development without justice often deepens division. You know, shiny new infrastructure, modernization, global economic growth, all of that is fantastic. But if it only highlights the massive gap between global aspirations and local, everyday deprivation, it's not actually building the nation. For economic progress to truly integrate a society, it has to go hand in hand with social justice.
And that leads us into our final section, Chapter 5, the daily construction. So, how does the state actually hold all this vast, complex diversity together every day? Well, one of the brilliant mechanisms is India's responsive federalism. Reorganizing states by language helped protect regional identities and made democracy feel local and accessible. It's a great tool. But there is a flip side to watch out for: political fragmentation. If the system fractures too much, the focus narrows purely to immediate local calculations or regional bargaining. And when that happens, the broader overarching national purpose can easily get lost in the noise. Actually, if there's one thing you take away from this entire explainer, make it this. Nationhood is not a one-time event that just happened at midnight in 1947. It is a daily construction. Literally every single time a court passes a judgment, every time a kid sits down in a classroom, every time a policy is enacted or a local election is held, the feeling of belonging to one common nation is either being strengthened or weakened. It is an active, ongoing, everyday project. To really capture the sheer scale of this ambition, there's a powerful quote from the source material that hits the nail on the head. India is trying to achieve something extraordinarily difficult: to make unity compatible with diversity and democracy compatible with justice. The struggles India faces in nation building aren't just signs of failure. They are signs of immense historical complexity. This is one of the most important political projects in the modern world, simply because it's trying to build trust across such deep, deep differences. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. The question we should be asking isn't whether India has become a nation. It clearly has. The real question is, can it become a more just, inclusive, and emotionally integrated nation without losing its unique pluralistic soul? The roadmap was drawn in 1947, but as you've seen, society is still very much traveling the road. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.